Welcome to the Unbiased Bias Review. I am your host, or reviewer, I guess. My name is James, and today we're going to be taking a look at the IQ Power Tools 228 Cyclone, the 7-inch dry cut saw for tile. Supposedly, they say no dust and no water. My background, I did tile for 6 years. I'm not just your average homeowner or something doing that. I have a knowledge of it using professional saws, cutting tile, doing work in many expensive homes, nice tile and everything. So we are going to put this to the test. We're going to unbox this, see what it all has inside, and then we'll do some cuts for you, let you know how it actually works. Let's get this thing open. Alright, what do we all got here? Tips and tricks, owner's manual. Good to know, might need that, help assemble it. Got our dry cut blades, 7-inch. Looks like the guard for on top. Lastly, all right, I've got the guide on here, just like that. Perfect. Blade dust guard, which was this, which we'll have to get put on. So go here. Ribbing knife, rolling table. It'll slide just a little bit nicer, but we'll find out. Lock that in place. I've got the filtration system here. And then spin it. Help break up the dust that gets collected in there. Help dump it then into the tray that you can then empty out, which is pretty nice. Let's get this blade put in. So we got our saw completely assembled here, as you can see. And now we're going to give it some cuts here. First we're going to cut a ceramic piece of tile, which is usually a little bit softer. I think so, a little bit easier cut. And then we're going to go into something a little bit harder. We're going to go into a porcelain. Now this is going to be a little bit more of a test for it because it also has more of a shiny gloss finish to it, which does like to chip away. So we're going to see how this saw cuts that. All right. Let's give it a go. We had something that happens quite a bit on tile. It will sometimes break away before it hits the end. So that did happen here. So we didn't get a clean cut through. I mean, the cut's it's not the greatest. I wasn't forcing it a ton through. I was trying to go at a somewhat adequate speed in order to cut this tile. Sometimes though, blades do cut it a little better after getting worn in some. So we're just going to keep making some cuts, over time, and we'll give you another review and update on this saw, see if it is starting to cut a little bit better. Kind of hoping it does, because we live in Wisconsin. Winters get pretty cold. One reason why I bought this, to try it out, see how it's going to do. I know it's getting to be summer, but this saw just came out not too long ago. Was able to just get my hands on it. But in wintertime, for remodeling and stuff, hopefully it will work out pretty good. Dust quality and stuff, it's better than cutting just with the grinder and letting it go. I'm not going to say it's completely dust free, which is kind of sad. That's a big thing that they push and advertise. The biggest thing would be mostly just kind of like chips and stuff from the tile, which I guess isn't technically dust per se. But I think it could do a little bit better in those regards, especially if you are cutting this in people's homes. But like I said, maybe it will get a little bit better as the blade gets worn in some. Maybe it'll cut a little bit better, not have that problem. But we'll find out. Got done making a few cuts and everything. As you can see, the dust collection system did work. Did catch some dust in there, quite a bit. A couple larger pieces of that porcelain tile did chip off, kind of like I said. So that worked decently. So some nice features are like the rear guide that's on here to help you push your tile through. It's got a nice little storage over on the side there, which is pretty nice. I do like that. This guide is pretty nice too. The fence here, being able to make different adjustments and everything, snaps in pretty nice, which works out very well. It's a good design in that way. If we go and flip it upside down, you can see some more of the dust collection and stuff. Obviously in the filter there, it does actually have, for the blade and everything, a little storage over on the side, which is pretty nice. I will say a couple of things though about it. The directions don't particularly say to do this or not, but for anyone else that buys it, there is like a motor stop to help you tighten the blade and loosen it, which is back down in here. Directions do not tell you about that when putting the blade on, so keep that in mind. My overall opinion of this saw is that it cuts decent, as in the power wise. Being able to get a piece cut through it and push through. I will say though, I did notice a little bit of wobble in my blade towards the end after several cuts through the porcelain and everything, which could cause some more chipping and the tiles not cutting completely straight through at the end. Not saying it's a 100% if that's the case or not. The cuts that I had, they did get a little bit better as I did make some more cuts. They did get a little bit cleaner, but still not as nice as a wet saw. Even a cheap wet saw. I have a cheap like $300 wet saw. It's not a tabletop kind. Saws from overhead, but that cuts even nicer. So a little disappointing in that. Dust extraction, pretty good as you saw on the tray. Quite a bit of dust compared to if you're dry cutting, let's say with a grinder, you would have dust fill up a whole entire room. So this did keep that down. There were several chips and everything else that were going through, kind of flying out and everything. I didn't wear eye protection. You probably should. The guard here, this fence cover, does not protect everything coming out, which is another thing that's a little bit disappointing. They could have had a little bit different design, maybe something that was actually clear see-through to help you see the tiles it's actually going through and pushing, especially if you have like a line, maybe your piece has to be slightly just angled a degree or two, so you just have it off and you want to push through. So a clear cover would be a lot nicer, and maybe a little bit wider out on the sides. And since it would be clear, you could see the blade even through, because right now they have it where it comes up a little bit. Yes, that does help if it's down for your tile to go through, but they could have made this, extended this a little bit further if it was clear and see-through, and I think that would help also with some of that more collection of the little chips of tile that come off and stuff, instead of them flying all over the place. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, it's maybe like a 6. I hate to say it. It's an expensive saw, $600. That's a lot of money to spend on something, especially when you're pushing and advertising so much. I've seen other reviews and videos and people raving about it and liking it and everything else. I really did want to like it. I'm not saying I'm not going to use it in the future or for other jobs. I just probably wouldn't use it for some nice finish cuts that are going to be on outside edges, and hopefully a little bit better for backsplashes and a little bit smaller tile like ceramic that cuts a little bit easier. Worked a little bit nicer on those cuts I made with this. Overall, it's kind of up to you. What's the point of spending so much money and getting a saw that's supposed to be a high-end professional tool, and you may have to go through and clean up your edges, hone them a little bit or something, make them smooth. If you got a real nice saw, you don't really have to do that. It's a great idea, but it's not quite 100% there. There's a few things that have to kind of go back to the drawing board. Hopefully, they'll come out with some modifications or upgrades that you can kind of do to it, or even just a different model in a year or two that work just a little bit better. That's my unbiased bias review. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you in the next one.